Can you hear?
Yes.
Who wants to chant?
Would love to chant.
Yes, please. Would you be able to do it yourself, or you want me to do first?
If you can do that, will be great because I've never done it before.
Oh, okay. Sure. Just give me a moment. सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
सदाशिवसमारम्भा
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तं
वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्.
वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्.
Once more we'll do together each line. सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
सदा
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
सदाशिवसमारम्भं शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् ते गुरुपरम्पराम्.
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तं वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्.
श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम्
स्तुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम्
आलयम् करुणालयम्
आलयं करुणालयं
नमामि भगवत्पाद
नमामि भगवत्पाद
शङ्करम् लोकशङ्करम्
शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं
शङ्करम् शङ्कराचार्यम्
शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं
केशवम् बादरायणम्
केशवं बादरायणं
सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे
सूत्रभाष्य कृतौ वन्दे
भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः.
भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः.
ॐ सहना भवतु
ॐ सहना भवतु
सहनौ भुनक्तु
सहनौ भुनक्तु
सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै
सह वीर्यं करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु
मा विद्विषावहै.
मा विद्विषावहै.
ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः.
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are seeing almost the last portion of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and taking a quick point. So we have seen that first chapter is an indicator of the disturbances, and the root cause of it is going to be addressed from the second chapter. As long as there are desires, there will be an impulse, a motivation to act, to fulfill those desires. And also along with, there will be this dependency on the fulfillment of the desire to give one happiness. Fulfillment of happiness will mean, fulfillment of desire will mean happiness, and non-fulfillment of desire will automatically become unhappiness, sorrow. So here we saw first Dhritarashtra and his reason of being unhappy, sorrow, experiencing sorrow. Then we saw Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana and his reason of being disturbed, agitated, and hence unhappy. Now we are seeing, very important, Arjuna's reason of sorrow and why he is unhappy. Ultimately, amongst many kinds of gradations of, not kinds, many gradations of unhappiness that a human being experiences, not every unhappiness becomes the reason for discovering the true source of happiness. Unhappiness, also the characteristic needs to be understood. What kind of unhappiness do I have? What kind of a low state of mind am I feeling, etc. Because not every low state of mind is a hetu, is a means for discovering happiness, shanti. 99.9% of the reasons why we are unhappy, they put us into a cycle of perpetuating unhappiness. I'm taking it away from technical terms and helping us understand our daily language, in terms of our daily language. The minute we identify with a certain state of mind, and if it is not feeling naturally happy, automatically there is a desire to return, to come to a state of happiness, for which we start finding methods and means that we want to adopt and discover that state of peace and balance and happiness again. 99% of the methods we employ for it, this is important now. 99.9% of the methods we employ to bring peace back to ourselves will create, perpetuate another cycle or deepen the cycle, which itself will be the cause of bringing more unhappiness at another point. Arjuna's unhappiness, Arjuna is feeling, that Arjuna is experiencing, that is the true indicator of bringing up the real happiness, peace, balance. At least the potential is there. So he has, so far, till we saw till 30th, 37th verse, 39th verse. Till there, he has decided, he's saying, finding reasons, justifications, seeing his own people, he's beginning to get doubts as to why this war should be fought. His mind is confused, there is a conflict, inner conflict experienced, and he's coming up with reasons. Why should we fight this war? Whatever the reasons had been planned suddenly have disappeared. And this is something to be registered in our day-to-day life. So often we plan things, but then something overtakes, something distracts, something deviates the attention, and then all of a sudden we forget the main purpose. We get involved in something else. This is happening to Arjuna now. He is coming up with his own emotions, his memories have triggered, seeing Bhishma, Pitama and Drona in front of him. He's forgotten temporarily the reason with which he had come prepared for the war. The mind has got, in Hindi you can say, मन में अब स्नेह है. Sneh means it's a warm mind. It's not a frustrated mind, it's not an angry mind, it's not a revengeful mind. वो सब भाव नहीं है. Those are not the emotions he's feeling. The minute he sees his grandfather Bhishma and he sees Drona, his mind takes a vikar. मन बदल जाता है. And this is something we note very often. मन बदल जाता है. When the mind changes itself, the reasons that it comes up with, physical situation was presenting him something else. But the reasons that his man badal gaya ab uska, wo avastha, that state of his mind and the physical being where he was in the center of a war, they don't seem to correlate. In his mind, what he is experiencing is, suddenly he's got a doubt that on examining the consequence of the war, take it fast forward. On fast forward mode, what will happen to the war outcome? He says, there'll be nobody alive for whose sake I want this kingdom. जिनके लिए हमें चाहिए. It's like a lot of times parents say, they get the motivation, they want to build a home so that their children are taken care of. They want to gather means so that they can pass it on, etc. So that, suddenly, supposing there's a tragedy and they lose that motivation, automatically, supposing, God forbid, something's happened to the child, sudden state of mind will say, now what do I need to do this for? So Arjuna is going through these reasons that we have seen in the last class, and he had said, even if I get attacked by them, killed by them, I don't want life also without these people for whose sake the kingdom would have been worthy, the pleasures would have been worthy. It's like, and these are very identifiable emotions, especially when you are young and when you get your first vehicle. A lot of boys I know, my brothers were like that, and they say when they get first bike, they want someone special to be sitting behind. What is the use of that bike if that someone special is not behind, etc.? What is the use of having a huge house if I can't share that happiness with someone? The desire to share happiness with someone, of your achievements, of your, say here in his context, the victory that would have come. You want to share that victory with someone. If you're not going to be able to share it, those people will not be there. But natural, the doubt will come. What is the use of this victory? What is the use of this bike? What is the use of this house? What is the use of wealth if I don't have anybody to enjoy it with? So he says, Tasmat, 37th verse, after giving the main reason, here he said, Na cha shreya anupashyami. I don't see shreyas in fighting this war by killing our own people. And then he gave the justifications, and he says, all this rajyam and sukham and bhogas, pleasures, they are of no use at all if I lose all these swajanaha, my own people. And so he says, these are atatais. These atatais who are there in front. And atatais are ones who are hardcore. Their hearts have become hardened to commit crime. And you see this even today now, everywhere. When a person doesn't even feel a regret for having done wrong to someone, that is called a hardcore crime. Someone's mic is on. Can you please mute it? So he says over here, he says these hardcore people, on one hand, he says Dhritarashtra's sons are all hardcore criminals. They have done all those that are qualifying themselves as Atatai, the 5 kinds of patakams, the 5 kinds of injury that you can cause to another, which by all standards gives others the rights to take away their life. Means if there's an Atatai, the law, dharma would say in those days, the dharma was that the protectors of dharmas should not hesitate to take away the lives of those who are Atatais. So he says, by killing, now 2 emotions have come together. On one hand, he says these are Atatais and therefore they need to be killed. But on the other hand, he is saying, by killing these people, we will accrue papam. We will get papam. So what is the mix-up? The mix-up is in his basic information now has got mixed up. Killing them should not be papam. In fact, it's punyam. But killing our own people, even if they are Atatai, that is the seat of confusion. Does it still qualify that you can fight this war? Does it still qualify you to follow your Kshatriya dharma? So he says, Tasmat, therefore, Vayam hantum dhritarashtra swabandhavan swajanam hi katham hatva sukhinah syam madhavaha. He says we should not kill these dhritarashtras, all of them. Killing our own people, how can we be happy? Oh Madhav. Now he starts further. Another level of reasoning, which is more societal implication. And this is where we say the difference between Duryodhana and Arjuna needs to be very, very clear to us, because Duryodhana could only think about himself. But Arjuna was able to think about not just himself, but also about the society, implications of an action that will fall far ahead. I'm sorry if you are getting disturbed by the sound. The drilling is happening upstairs, so please bear with it. I'm sure they'll finish it fast. So, as long as you can hear me clear. So he says, all these people will...
Finish will you get my feeling?
All these people, the societal implication, what will happen? Because as I said in the last class, Krishna is silent. He's not uttered a word so far. He's just listening to Arjuna. Now, Arjuna has to have Krishna's permission, because that's the sthan he has given to Krishna. That's the condition on which Krishna has come to help him in the war. Unless and until Krishna gives him the permission, he knows that he'll only abide by what Krishna says. So that is making him also a little disturbed, because Krishna is not saying, wow, wise fellow, you are so nice, you're so compassionate, you're so kind, you're so wonderful to think about this. You are right, absolutely. You are such a wonderful human being. You are Arjuna, dear to me. You're thinking right. Therefore, if only Krishna had said this much by now, sanctioned Arjuna, yes, you're right, killing your own people is not a right thing. Yes, let's stop the war. If you're happy not to get any kingdom at all, and even to the extent that you can be killed by them, you're accepting this condition also, then it's fine. Let's just resolve, why should we go through the war at all? But Krishna is standing there, Kutastha, not budging an inch in his expression, not saying a word. So Arjuna knows there is more reasons he has to supplement his thinking, why he needs to go, why he needs to withdraw from the war. And what are these reasons? He says, forget me losing my Swajanam. Forget Pandavas losing their own people in the war. And truthfully, at the end of the war, There were only 5 Pandavas left. So many were widowed. Children were without a father, and there was one in the womb from their lineage. The entire lineage was wiped off. This, Arjun says, before the war has started, showing the sign of wisdom still. He's still able to correlate his action and the consequences that can come. This is a huge learning to humankind. If we can foresee what will be the outcome of our choices and decisions before we make them, all thinking can only be done before. Once you start the action, thereby there is nothing to be done. Once you start a plan of action, you can only make some changes, but thinking has to be done beforehand. So here Arjuna says, comes up with a totally new level of thinking, and many of us are not going to find this very comfortable in our intellectual understanding also, but that's the way Shastra Drishti has shown it to us. And he says in the 38th verse, यद्यप्येतेन पश्यन्ति लोभोपहतचेतसः कुलक्षयकृतं दोषं मित्रद्रोहे च पातकम्. He says, who are these people? Yadyapi, yadi api, ete, these, there are two sets of people, commentators who would say, one would say these would refer to Kaurava side. The other set of people would say it also includes their own side. Means he's generalizing to say all these people standing on both the sides. Yadi api, even if these people standing on both sides of the army, na pashyanti, they do not see. What do they not see? Patakam, that they are in the process of creating patakam, जो गिराता है, पतन का कारण बनता है. Patakam means the पतन का कारण, the cause of your fall. Which fall? Existential fall. Physical, emotional, moral, psychological, definitely spiritual. It flips you. He says, these people are not able to see what? That they're about to commit a action. That action is going to be the cause of a fall. What is the qualification of that action? ये दूषित है. This action is दूषित. You can't say it is. It's flawed. It has a dosha. It is not a correct action. This action of this war that they are going to commence, in this war, this action has a flaw. Huge flaw. What is it? He says there are going to be two things that they are going to be committing through this. One dosh is kulakshaya kritam. By engaging in this war, by the end of it, kul ka shaya ho jayega. Kul means lineage. So many people are going to die, so their lineage will come to an end. Kulakshaya ho jayega. Second dosh that they are going to have is mitra droha. They are friends on both the sides. So they'll be killing betraying their own friends. Betrayal of friends is papam. And anyone who causes someone else's lineage to end also is a papam. By fighting this war, he says, what is going to happen? We are going to become instrumental in ending many lineages. many families' lineage will come to an end because men are going to die. So there'll be an abrupt ending of a kul. Kul is the correct word. What is kul? I don't think has an English equivalent. It is a family representative which binds a group of people together. Aapka kul kya hai? That kula will end. Whoever is causing that, kul to end hoga hi hoga. But who is causing it will get the papam. Or mitra droha, pap of killing a friend, betraying a friend. He says these people are not able to see that they are going to commit this reason, this papam, this crime. Why are they not able to see? He says, lobha apahata chetasaha. Their minds, chetana here is mind. Mind here, their mind is upahata. It has been overcome by lobh. Lobh means greed. They are greedy. When does greed really come up? Shastra has a definite way of looking at it. One way of saying greed is what I don't have and I want to go out and get it. That is acquisition. Greed is when you already have something and you want more of it or you want to retain it at any cost. You see the difference between the two? When I don't have something and I want it, that is acquisition. Greed is when I already have it but I want more of it. I want to retain it. This greed is indicating here to say that these Dhritarashtras, they already have got our land. They've taken it already. They're enjoying it. Now, what do they want? They're fighting the war out of greed. They want to hold on to it because once you've enjoyed it, the loss is unbearable. They're already enjoying a kingdom. They have already exiled Pandavas. They have put them through a lot of sorrow and suffering. They have tried to control the kingdom from their end. Because of this controlling, they have enjoyed power. Greed of holding that power. Now, Arjuna is saying it is greed. But was Duryodhana's motive only greed? Does anybody remember from previous classes?
It was insecurity also. It was
It
just
was
not.
it was insecurity also. What else? Nothing else?
He just wanted to prove himself by doing wrong to someone.
Right. Correct. He wanted to prove himself. He had this constant
Ego
competition.
massage, an ego he could not let go of.
Correct. He just could not let go of that ego massaging. He was constantly comparing the Pandavas to him. So he had a lot of competitive irsha towards the Pandavas, Bhim in particular.
And he also thought he was wronged or his father was wronged. In a way,
Correct.
that belief in him. Correct. We were
So
wrong.
he was holding the feelings of as if they have been betrayed. So Duryodhana's motive was as if they have been betrayed by denying it and they have, for some reason or the other, got the kingdom to themselves. And it is not just he
was holding a grudge.
He was holding a grudge. Correct. That was his motivation. But here Arjuna's perception of that is that they've already wrongly acquired our land, our kingdom. Now they want to possess it, keep it possessed by them. Lobh has overpowered them completely. So the discrimination of seeing their own fault is not available. In everyday life also you come across these things. You ask many people when there are jhagda, even in a family, small jhagdas also, when you have a discord with someone, how often do you find in a conversation someone saying, yeah, it was my fault? Is it very often? Because if it was happening, there would be no jhagda. If someone can recognize that where we go wrong and what have we contributed as wrong in the situation, definitely it's never one person's wrong. It's always a spiral. Relations always slip in a spiral. It's never one person's mistake alone. It's a spiral that comes down. Similarly, a good relation is also a spiral that comes up. It's a spiral. They both are complementing each other. Now, when can you discern where you have gone wrong? If you have objective vision. If you are identified with right and wrong, objectively, neutrally. जो सबके लिए applicable है वो हम पे भी applicable है. If I can judge someone else as wrong under these circumstances, I should have the capacity to judge myself when I can go wrong. A lot of people, when they ask, what is the gain of Gita? One of the very comes, one of the very by the way gains. One of the very by the way gains of study of the Gita is your drishti of what is wrong becomes objective. What is right also is objective. You put yourself also in the same category as everyone else. So if a mistake is made by someone, it can be possible I can also make mistakes. There's an acceptance. So no issue is grown. Now, in Arjuna's mind, that thinking has got mixed up. He started experiencing moha. He started experiencing the full manifestation of what will put a person in samsara gati. Please understand this clearly. Our own emotional thinking to us is always justified. अगर मुझे गुस्सा भी आता है ना, तो I am right. Who says कि मुझे गुस्सा आता है and I am wrong? Have you ever heard anybody? I have never. In fact, उस इंसान को गुस्सा आता ही इसलिए है क्योंकि उसको पता है वो right है. उसको लगता है he thinks he is right and nobody understands and nobody accepts. There is already a pre-idea, notion. I am right. And yet, therefore, Now, the minute there is a disturbance in the mind of any nature, the right and the wrong which are objectively perceived gets mixed up. In Arjuna's case, he's losing the very reasons which have triggered the war. It is not lobh on Kaurava's part. But to Arjuna now, the mix-up of the emotion is bringing up a wrong perception. Wrong data is emerging in his mind. It's false. That thinking is false. It's imaginary in a way. It's not baseless, but it's not entirely right. So, any person, I'm generalizing now, any person who is in that state of mind and goes with this data, which is incorrect otherwise, his own rational mind will say it is incorrect at another point, but he goes and acts. Are my sentences clear? what will be the outcome of that action? Either I'm not clear. Should I repeat myself?
Outcome of which action?
Supposing your mind has got emotionally overtaken, and now your mind is coming up with reasons which are not factually correct, but to you they look overwhelmingly right. Like Arjuna here, lobha apahata chetasaha. The minds, he says, Dhritarashtra's son's minds is overpowered by greed. This is not totally factual. Now, if Arjuna were to take a decision based on what his mind is now projecting, what would be the outcome of such actions? And I am saying, making a parallel to all of us here.
So then you make wrong decisions in life.
You make wrong decisions in life. And what is going to be the outcome of a wrong decision? Shastriya term?
Adharma.
Okay, not totally adharma, can be adharma also, yes. What is the context of the first chapter?
Suffering.
Suffering. In another word, it will put you
Spiritual down.
Sansar gati.
Absolutely, it will slip you down sansara gati. So these are very, very important recognitions for human beings. Our sansara gati is perpetuated by us. How does it get perpetuated? Arjuna, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana have been 3 sample pieces in the first chapter. Even Arjuna, with all his good thinking, good person, can slip and perpetuate samsara. So his mind has now got involved with moha, has become mohit, means mixed up in data, confusion, and born out of genuine feelings. But now he's saying the outcome will be huge because there seems to be no ground for fighting. His mind is saying they are greedy people. There is no ground for fighting a war for greed. Then he says, now he gives another further reason. This is the next level of fall. Katham nagneyam asmabhihi papadasman nivartitum kulakshaya kritan dosham prapashyadbhir janardana. He says, Neyam, Katham Gneyam. How come when we know? Asmat, all of us, we. Na vartitum. Na avartitum. Avartitum means withdraw. How come, he says, knowing these consequences, how can we not withdraw? From what? Papat. From doing this papam. He says, Katham nagneyam asmabhihi papat asmat nivartitum. Knowing the outcome is going to be what? Kulakshaya kritam dosham mitra drohe dosham. ये 2 चीजें हम भी करेंगे, वो तो आतताई हैं ही हैं. We तो can see this also what we are going to commit. When we see this, how can knowing, they तो don't know. हम तो जानते हैं ना कि ये पाप हो रहा है. जानते हुए कुलक्षय कृतम दोषम, कि हम ये कुलक्षय का दोष करेंगे. प्रपश्यत भीर जनार्दना. How is it prapashyat? When we clearly see that we are doing this, inciting this fall of a whole lineage, O Janardana, O protector of people, how can we not withdraw ourselves from committing this papam when we know this is papam? They don't know. So if they go ahead and commit, that's okay, because they don't know. Kiska dosh, whose flaw will be greater? Those who know and commit, or those who don't know and commit? Who's more weaker? Those who know. Those who know and commit, they will be weaker. That means we are making a greater error. We are committing a greater sin. We are committing a greater papam, because we know that these are the two things which are directly going to cause a lot of agony in society. Personal loss will be so huge that these people who have been overcome by greed are not able to see. And this we talk in a lot of our day-to-day life languages also. In a lot of situations we say that. A lot of conflict also arises from this. When I can see something clearly and I know what is the right thing to do, but yet if I don't do that right thing, what will happen? That kind of a conflict, he says. So he says, how is it possible that knowing that we are committing this papam, we should not be withdrawing from it? We should withdraw from it, O Janardana. How can you not agree with me? It's almost like next under subheading, small quotes mein. How are you not agreeing with me, O Krishna, O Janardana? Then what happens? Now Krishna is still quite silent. Therefore, just to say that there will be kulakshaya papam and mitradroha papam, Krishna is not sold. Therefore, now he adds further. Now his mind has taken over. And this is a recognition. When our minds are slipping away, there is one point as if, oh, just a bar tootthi hai, that dam breaks. And then you are incoherent. You will just say anything that comes to the mind. And then anything that flows starts to happen, because your mind is going to make all kinds of connections which are just not legitimate. Now he says, Kulakshaye pranashyanti kuladharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam kritsnam adharmo bhivavatyuta. He says, okay, people, there will be kulakshaya. But what will happen if there's kulakshaya? If the lineage ends? Kulakshaye pranashyanti. Nash hona. Entirely, when the kul has got ended, then kula dharmaha pranashyanti. The dharmas that the kul was holding, kula, I keep saying that, kul was holding, family traditions that were holding the family. Sanatanaha. Sanatanaha means all those traditional handed down dharmas from one generation to another generation that a family holds. Every family has their own unique, some tradition that they abide in, which keeps the family together. And mostly it is elders that had handed it down to their children and grandchildren in the form of, there's some form of traditions, there's some form of, I would say they have the capacity to hold relations. Those, they can be things that will avoid unknowing difficulties to fall on the family. There are a lot of such dharmas that a family abides in. He says when the family lineages end, what will happen? He says all the kula dharmas that the families were holding, they will get destroyed. Remember, the fight is supposed to be dharma yudh. You have to make a lot of connections here. They were supposed to be a dharam yudh. It is the battle of dharma. Arjuna is saying, dharam hi nasht ho jayenge ye to. Do you see a connection? Anybody sees a connection? Pick up your finger. Yes. He says, we are come here to protect dharma. But what are we going to land up doing? We are going to be landing up destroying dharmas. The entire dharma of a family will be lost. And then what will happen? His mind is now rolled down. Gir raha hai pura. Itni jaldi, when a person supposing has fear or gets anxious, how their minds roll fast, slip away. This is what's happening now to Arjuna. He says, dharme nashte kulam kritsnam adharmaha abhibhavat uta abhibhavati uta. Dharme nashte kulam kritsnam adharmaha abhibhavati uta. He says, the minute there is destruction of dharmas, kula, then entirely kritsnam adharmaha abhibhavat. He says, kritsnam means completely from all sides. Adharma will abhibhavati, will enter. Whoever is remaining in the family, once the family dharmas are lost, dharma is gone, quickly, immediately, adharma will take over completely the family. It will enter the family. Adharma means, he's going to say further. So, adharma will overpower. Abhibhavati will overpower from all sides. Dabalega tumko. It will destroy you. It will destroy whatever's remaining also further. Adharma will take over, in fact. Where have we come to fight a dharmic war? And what is going to happen? Adharma will take over. He says, and then what will happen? Very interesting. It's still continuing. Adharma vibhavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyaha strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankaraha. This is too much of a leap now. A lot of us won't be able to correlate to this. Once there is adharma overpowered, whoever's remaining in the family will only be children and women. One or old people, or those who couldn't join, the men who couldn't join the war. These are the only people going to be left in the society. Adharma will means balance of male-female ratio will be upturned. The family which was holding values members have gone. So adharma grown. Once adharma has grown, adharma abhibhavat. He says once the adharma has taken over, O Krishna, pradushyanti kulastriyaha. The women that were left, I don't even know how to translate this or explain this. The women that were left, adharma will take over, therefore the women will become, a terrible way to say it also. The women will be What is written here?
Dushit.
Okay, thank you. Difficult for me to say this word. Women will get corrupted in their intentions and minds. Women will will lose morals. Because women will not be holding, there's nothing to keep the family together now. So women will become wavered. Wavered is the right word. They will go haywire. You know, uh, you know, till a few years ago also, when the families were holding a lot of disciplines on children. Doesn't work much now, but when they were having a lot of children, you know, we have been slapped by our parents also, come home at this time, etc., etc., etc. Now, a family keeps a discipline together for the sake of the happiness in the family. The minute we grew a little older and we were given the freedom, now what are the first thoughts that come to anybody? If the one जो नियंत्रित करता है आपको अगर वो नहीं है, so what happens to the first feeling that emerges? What is that freedom? That I'll do what I want. Marzi. So there'll be no curtailing. There's no question of rebelling is one way of breaking tradition. Here there will be nothing to curtail them. Whoever's left. So here he's pointing Striyaha because there's a very important reason. I'll come to that a little later. All that he's saying here is, once adharma overpowers a family, the people who usually give values in a family, who hold values, are women. They say in Hindi, it's a nice saying, the women are the mothers of Sanskriti. Sanskriti means culture, and she's a mother to her children, Santan, Sanskriti and Santan. She's the one who gives birth to it. Means in a home, she's the one who regulates basically the culture of home. If men go wayward, only men go wayward. That man only goes. But if a woman goes wayward, then the whole family disintegrates. And we see this, all of us have known, our mothers have been the central, kitna bhi strong. In Hindi, you have these laukik things coming out. No? Man can be holding a chairman's position outside, but when he comes home, who's the chairman? Wife is the chairman, etc., etc. To say that who holds the power actually at home, she holds the power at home. You can be anything, anywhere, but when you come home, she's the one who's managing the home. She's the one who's managing the children and the environment in which they nourish. She's the value giver. So in Vedic tradition, women had a very high position. I want to make a clear statement here. In Vedic tradition, women were given a very high status, held a high status. To such a high status, they were recognized, their value that they bring to people around in a family first was recognized by the family itself. That it's because of the mother and the later on sons, wives, so the daughter-in-laws, they were not seen as outsider. These are the ones who were holding the family together. Men were powerless. Men appreciated this. So women had held actually the highest position. Men did not hold a high position as high as women did in a Vedic outlook of life. And those who still have the culture of the Vedic background, in their eyes also, women are always they are incomparable because there's no question of equality. They are incomparable because they are higher. And whatever is higher needs to be protected. So whatever came as protection was with an understanding that she's a very valuable member. This later on started to get the connotation of control in today's world. Why am I being controlled and things like that, which is not what the purpose is. When he says here, the women will go wayward, the idea is that they have such a high value that dharmas, when they will get upset, the whole family balance will be upset. And once the family balance is upset, he says, then the women who was holding the family together, those women, the minute there's an imbalance, so adharma has to come in some form or the other. Strishu dushtasu varshneya. This women, when they become wayward, O Varshneya. Varshneya is another name for Krishna, the one who belonged to the wise Vrishni ke Kul ke. He's talking about Kula, so he's calling Krishna also by the name of his Kula. Varshneya is his Kula naam, belonging to the Vrishi Kula. So, O Varshneya, once the women have to intermingle with, ratio will be upset, so women will be intermingling with anyone and everyone or whoever is whatever. What will happen? Another layer of fall. Jayate varna sankaraha. Children will be born who will be mixture of varna. Varna has two meanings. In a normal meaning, you can say varna is color. So, varna is color. So, there will be a mixture of color. So, children will be born out of caste. Let me put it this way. So, varna sankaraha. So, kula dharmas are lost, gone. And because the kula dharmas are gone, therefore, the children that will be born will also be intercaste mixture. And once they are intercaste, once there is an intercaste of mixture, then what happens further? Sankaro narakayaiva kulaknanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro yesham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. Oh, haywire, sullied, yes, okay. So he says sankaraha. When these are mixed, intermixed, sankar hoke, because of the mixture of the castes, what will happen? Narakaya eva. They will only get narakam, hell. They will only go to hell. Kulagna kulasya cha. Who goes to hell? The ones who have caused destruction of kula. Kulagna. The ones who have caused the destruction of kula and the very destruction of kula. Whoever has caused, plus the ones who will now be sankara, mixture, jayate, they will get naraka. They will come to hell. They will get hell. How? Patanti pitaraha yesham. There will be a fall of pitras also. Not only these people will go to hell, there will be a fall of pitras also. Why? From Pitralok? Because Lupta Pindodaka Kriyaha. Because Shradkaram, the pinda of rice, those pind जिसे कहते हैं, and water, udaka, lupta, it will go away. It will not be accepted. Now, these are very technical terms. In a way, I would say technical because they are actually Vedic view. For any custom to be understood from any religion, from any group of people, that they follow a certain custom, there's a certain ideology based on which the customs come. Vedas, we have covered it before also, have a very important aspect of that this jiva is not one time, born and gone. This jiva has a continuity. Because they have a continuity and they come back, the reason of going and coming back means unmanifest is called death, manifest is called birth, is based on karma. Karma is that big adhar. Based on the fruits that you have to accrue, you get different environments where you'll find yourself as a living being experiencing a world. And that living being can be any creature. You'll find yourself according to that. Now, if this is the case, then on death, because family karmas, there is a totality karma, they hold people together. On death of the forefathers, according to their merit, Vedas have also categorized lokas of remaining. Pitralok is supposed to be very close to Bhulok. Bhulok as in earth, human beings. Whoever's forefathers have done a good deed, good karmas, have earned, are staying there. Pitralok has a unique feature, and that is that it is only a bhog bhumi. Bhog bhumi means you cannot do any karma there. What is earth? Earth is a karam bhumi. You can alter. But Pitralok is a bhog bhumi. You can only exhaust your experiences that you've earned. But, and this is not just unique to Vedic culture, a lot of Asian countries also believe in Pitras, ancestors. So, Pinda and Udaka, that offering done, is a way, actually today it seems very illogical to most of the people, but it's a way of, okay, let me redo this. The connection is that karmas done by your kula here, members here, family members here, can, in their name when you do, because they can't do karmas, in their name, if the related member is doing a karma, then that fruit goes to them. How does it go to them? Just as, when you get a puja done, your pandit does the puja on your behalf. So does he get the phal or you get the phal? You get the phal. Because shuru mein hi, who's doing the karma and to whom it goes is defined. So in all this, that was Tarpanam, Shraddha karma. Today, this is the intermixture that has happened. Now, what happens with intermixture, Arjuna says, is that once there is a child born of an intermixture of caste, that lineage actually is broken now. It no longer is a कुल जो चलता जा रहा था वो अब टूट गया है with an intermixture. Not that the child is invalid, child is legitimate, child is valid, but now this child doesn't have the capacity to do karma in the name of the pitras, because mixture hai now. It's an intermixed thing. And most of us are Varna Sankaras. The minute individuality is grown, Varna Sankaras, therefore these karmas have fallen off. They don't mean anything. But Arjuna's mind is what is important, and let's not deviate from the focus. His mind is saying that the minute there is going to be a Kulashaya, Adharma will take over. Once Adharma takes over, then there will be Varna Sankaraha. Once there is Varna Sankaraha, then even the Pitras will not get Gati further, because there will be the Varna Sankara is now cannot perform, is not eligible to perform the Pinda Karma. Therefore, even the Pitras will fall into lower areas. Now, what is this thinking? Kahan se kahan se kahan se kahan? He's gone up to Pitras also falling. You cannot say this reason is wrong. It shows that he has heard Shastra before. Dharma Shastra to he knows. Now, how much has his mind magnified the outcome and its negative influence is what is being presented here. So what we need to understand is minds can take such avenues up to and they don't look wrong. So he says, once the generations are mixed up and there is a fall, then doshai etaihi kulagnanam doshairetai kulagnanam varna sankara karakaihi utsadyante jati dharmaha kuladharmascha shashvataha. He says, the minute there is doshaihi etaihi, when these flaws surface, when these mistakes are made, when these doshas are there, and kulagnanam, the kulas have been destroyed, varna sankara karakaihi, they have become the cause of having children which have two lineages. Let me put it in a positive way. Varna Sankara means now they are representing two lineages, half and half. It's not one jati. Utsadyante jati dharmaha. He says then what will happen is all the jati dharmas also will get destroyed. Utsadyante means ukhad jayenge. They will become destroyed, nasht ho jayenge. Utsadyante jati dharmaha will also get destroyed. And kula dharmascha shashvataha, those that have been holding family life together and a society together is jati dharma, kula dharma. They will also all get destroyed. There will be no continuity, and we see this now. There is no continuity anymore of these karmas because individual expressions have grown. That is fine by its own self. But Vedic view of life and what it can offer, for that dharma palan was necessary. It's not wrong to give up dharma, but if you give up those dharmas, kula dharmas, a lot of families had kul devtas. Anybody knows kul devtas in their families? You have kul devtas, and for generations, those worships and families got together on occasions. There's a whole society that builds around itself. And that is actually the purpose of the Shastra. Purpose is, when the society builds around itself, there is for a purpose. And those layers come down in this manner. So he says, Jati dharmaha, kula dharmaha, shashvataha, they will all get mixed up. They'll be destroyed completely. And then what will happen? He says, Utsanna kula dharmanam, manushyanam janardana, narake niyatam vasaha, bhavati tyanushrushruma. Now he's kind of concluding again. He says, Utsanna kula dharmanam, manushyanam janardana. Oh Janardana again, protector. Once people give up their kula dharmas, once it is gone, that men who have the families, people who have given up their religious rights, kula dharmas, what happens to them? He says, Ashrushruma, we have heard, O Janardana, इन लोगों के साथ क्या होता है? नरके नियतम वासः. They will forever, niyatam, they'll remain in naraka. They get naraka. And what is naraka? Actually, there is a pathantaram, means there must be a different manuscript from which this must have come. This one says narake niyatam. Another manuscript would say narake aniyatam. Aniyatam means there is no definite time. So meaning is almost the same. For an indefinite time, such people will dwell in naraka. And what is naraka? Actually, according to Manusmritis and all that, there is this taratamyam. Taratamyam means gradation of pain and sorrow. So there are different narakas which keep going severe and severe and severe. I've forgotten the names and I don't have the list at the moment somewhere. But in one place there'll be normal average is 7 hells. But Shastra goes up to, if I'm not mistaken, 22 hells. Depending upon how much pedanam. Pedanam means how much pida you have to.
I'm doing a Bhagavad Gita class online, na, till 7. What's that? अच्छा क्यों Karpin? Thank you.
You're welcome. So you have so many gradations of narakam. He's saying, if the pindas are not given, tarpanam is not given, then there will be a fall of pitras also. Like yahan to there is a dharma floating. Everywhere there will be a dharma. Women will become, will not have the, let me put it in a positive way. Women will no longer have the power to assert the dharma. So yes, there is another school of explanation which will say women are by nature vyabhicharinis. Vyabhicharini means they quickly change their nature. The minute you give them a little freedom, they lose their discernment and they're quite happy to give up their dharmas, And so they lose the moral rights and wrongs, ethical rights and wrongs very faster and quicker. The reason, as I've explained, is because men, when they lose it, it's just up to them. They don't influence the family as much as women do. So loss from a woman's perspective, if she gives up the values and dharmas, then more members are affected. A family is held usually by a mother. by a female, by a member. It can be mother, sister, daughter, anybody. But the one who holds, she's the one who's the lubricant most often. It's not gender based, but most often you would see that. So he says, we have heard Arjuna saying. That's the beautiful part of it. He says, society has this floating knowledge, no? We say, all of us, वो भी ये कहते हैं, वो भी ये कहते हैं. So Arjuna saying, we have heard that whoever gives up their kula dharmas, now that fear has emerged. See the way the fall of emotion happens. Duryodhana has insecurity, okay. But what is happening to Arjuna out of his genuine concern? He's genuinely debating, should I fight the war or not? The consequences are too far reaching. And his consequences are so far reaching, he says, I can see that even forefathers are going to fall into Narakam. And we who have instigated Utsan, Kuladharmanam, हमने जो किया, हम जो करने जा रहे हैं, Narake Niyatam. We will only dwell in Naraka for for indefinite time. Therefore, he says, now he is kind of, aho, he says, aho, bata. These are ways, aho is, oh, kabhi kehte na, oh my God, OMG, oh my God, that kind of a superlative expression. So he says, aho bata mahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yatrajya sukhalobhena hantum swajana mudyataha. He says, oho, aho, bata, indeed. Alas, you use this term in many places, and here it is used as if in a sense of expression of shok. Aho, he's now beginning to show his dejection. Mahat papam kartum. Do you get the intonation of my voice? Mahat papam. This huge papam. Kartum, jo hum karne wale hain. Vyavasthitaha vayam, for which we have added our armies. We have become vyavasthit. We have in a ready mode to fight. For this huge papam, he came, remember the first class. Arjuna came with a clear mind of his reasons to fight. Now his language is completely on the other side. And he's saying we are going to do adharma by this war, fighting this war. So he says, Mahat papam, we are going to commit a huge papam. Yet, for what sake? Now he's telling Krishna again, he's reminding him. Why should we fight this? For whose sake? What is the फायदा क्या है इसका? इस वॉर से किसको फायदा हो रहा है? हमें नहीं होगा, हमें तो राज्य चाहिए नहीं, हमें तो सुख चाहिए नहीं, हमें तो लोभ है नहीं, उनको लोभ है, let them enjoy. अगर हम लड़ेंगे तो हाँ, सब नरक में जा रहे हैं. In other words, everything is going haywire. Life is going, there'll be a lot of imbalance. So for what sake are we fighting? Ahobat means now, for what reason are we fighting? Yat rajya sukha lobhena. Now he's saying, are we fighting for the greed of a rajya? For fighting and what? Hantum swajana mudyataha. And we have got ready, udyataha. We have become ready to kill our own people for the greed of kingdom. Is anyone connecting the continuity of the classes? I'm sure most of you are, but I'm very, I find this always very amazing how Arjuna's mind could have changed so much. How, and what amazes me further is, he's representing all of us.
Deepti ji, the reasons don't seem very wrong,
That's exactly what I was telling you in the beginning. That when you will hear Arjuna, you genuinely, It took me
I mean,
very, very long, honestly, to
I am not
understand.
able to. I cannot understand. I mean, with he's be very convincing. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking, why is it required now?
Absolutely, you are right. Then now you're at least on the side of the Shastra. I
And
also.
Deepti, also when you say that we are like Arjun, which means that our minds also sometimes give us such convincing reasons to
Ah,
not do what we are supposed to do, और हम उनकी बात में आ जाते हैं.
this is why, we say even if appears like a huge exaggerated situation, that's why exaggerated situation has been projected to convey the point. Ultimately, it is in our everyday life that we are doing this. Human beings will do this. We will justify. We are justifying all the time. And that is what he's going to correct later on. Each of his concerns, Arjuna's concerns, when Krishna starts to address, most of them you feel all Krishna is doing is buying time for his buddhi to revive again, for his clarity to dawn again, for his reason to come up again, the right thinking to emerge again. And that is how we learn to identify where we justify before we slip into such actions. And now you understand them. These are the ones that keep samsara gati. Such states of mind and whatever we do in them. And absolutely, if this is to be a moksha shastra, then it must be a flawless, perfect, is what I would say, a formula for moksha. Starting where? In the midst of battleground. In the midst of life where we are, between our families and work and enjoyments and pleasures and anything that we can think of. This is the place where it becomes a moksha incentive. How to convert it towards moksha so that you're further not embroiling yourself into a state of fall, state of samsara gati. Aho bata mahat papam. What's the time? So he says here that I am not going to, almost deciding. I think we'll just continue with this. We'll finish that. We'll avoid. It's going to be chanting. We'll do next time. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
So he says now, Yadi mama pratikaram ashastram shastrapanayah bhartarashtrarane hanyuhu tanme kshemataram bhavet. Very beautiful. Now he's concluded again. Ek tasmat pehle aaya tha. Now he's again saying, Yadi, if, condition he's telling Krishna, means I am so convinced of what I am saying, he's saying, that even if these Dhritarashtras, he's still not calling them his cousins, his brothers, he's still seeing them as the other only. Just as Dhritarashtra saw them as others, Arjuna is also seeing them as Dhritarashtras. So he says, just as if these Dhritarashtras with weapons in their hand, Shastrapanayaha, if they charge at me to kill me, armed with all kinds of weapons, all of them together also if they come, Mam Pratikaram Ashastram. Sorry. Mam Apratikaram Ashastram. He says, Apratikaram. Pratikar karna matlab I will fight back. Apratikaram means unresisting. I will not defend myself. Ashastram. I am without weapons. I will not even raise my hand to defend myself. Mam apratikaram ashastram. Dhartarashtraha shastrapanayaha. Rane hanyuhu. In this battle, hanyuhu. If they will kill me. If they should kill me unarmed, which is also papam, remember? He says, if they kill me unarmed also, shema taram bhavet. This is a beautiful. Temataram means that is my higher Shreyas. That is good for me, beneficial for me. Taram is Taratamyam again, superlative. सबसे अच्छा मेरे लिए यही है. What is the best for me? What is the best course for me? What is the best thing to happen to me? The best thing to happen to me is unarmed Dhritarashtra's sons should kill me. Unarmed. That is the best thing that can happen to me. Shreyas, he asks Krishna, what is Shreyas for us? Then it went on, Shreyas, this is Shreyas. Now he says, what is Shreyas? Opposite completely. Shreyas is me not fighting. इसी में हमारी भलाई है. Hindi is a good way of saying it. इसी में हमारी भलाई है. Because otherwise we are going to Narakam. Not only we are going to Narakam, eternally we are going to dwell in Narakam. And all this society will go blah, 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 blah. Therefore, he says, having made that statement, now Sanjay is concluding to Dhritarashtra. What happened? Now Arjun also fell silent for a moment. Krishna though has not opened his mouth. So Arjun also, all that Krishna had said, देखो, तुम्हारे सामने, Bhishma और Dron को देखो, who are in front. But that's all that he says. Look, examine who's in front of you. And that was all the first chapter that he said. 3 words, Krishna said. Now Arjuna completely dejected. I don't even know the right word. Confused and bilkul listless and bilkul haath pair trembling and mouth parching, not lost his way. A lot of times we say, sometimes some situations happen to some people and they say, I lost my way somewhere. I just lost my... What is that? Confused and lost, feeling lost. मुझे क्या करना है life में? Especially when there's a loss of a partner with whom you are very, very close, loss of children, loss of family, loss of job, there's so many things that happen in a life that anything can topple anyone. And then that feeling that I'm lost, I don't know what is to be done. I don't know what is right. I don't know what worth is life. People ask those questions. Is जीवन का purpose क्या है? What is the use of me living? That's exactly what Arjuna is saying. What is the use of me continuing to live? Why should I live? He said that. So he says now he's gone into that dejected, depressed state of mind, confused, not knowing what is right, what is wrong. The only blessing that there is still is that his acknowledgement of Krishna, despite the state of mind, has not changed. His mind has completely changed from the beginning. But what remained changeless is his acknowledgement of Krishna. And so Sanjaya concludes this and says, Eva muktvarjuna sankhye rathopastha upavishat visrujya sasharam chapam shoka samvigna manasaha. And samsara has erupted in the form of shoka. Shoka samvigna manasaha. His mind has got enveloped with shok, with grief, with sorrow. He's got a sorrowful, mera mood na aaj अच्छा नहीं है. It's such a light way of saying. Engulfed in sorrow. And engulfed in sorrow, what does he say? Evam uktva Arjunaha. Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra, in this manner Arjuna spoke, said. And then in war, Sankhye, in the war, Rathopastha Upavishat, he sat down. He was standing, remember, with the bow and arrow ready to examine, and his bow has slipped away from the hands, legs were shaking, hands were shaking, etc. Now he just gives up. Visrujya sasharam chapam. Chapam is bow, the bow and arrow, gandiva, he visrujya gives it up, gira deta hai. He drops it and sits like that, hatash hoke. He sits on that little seat behind Krishna. He sits on the seat and he's shoka samvigna manasaha, engulfed in shoka. And that ends the first chapter. Iti Sri Mahabharate Shatasahasrayam Samhitayam Vaiyasikyam Bhishma Parvani Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogaha Nama Prathamo Dhyayaha. This also we may take up tomorrow, maybe. I'll just explain. There's a technical part about it. We'll do a few points. So, first chapter is over, but Arjuna is still not over. Second chapter, he will continue for a few more verses before he completely resigns. Clouded thinking, completely lost way, depressed, dejected, whatever terms you want to call him, but yet completely surrendering at that point to our Krishna and asking him, what should I do? My mind says Shreyas is in not fighting this war. You guide me. What is our Shreyas in? That will come on the 11th verse, but we still have a few more things to cover. Now, I'll just conclude, but you have to, maybe whoever's willing to, whoever wants to, I would suggest, if you want to make a note of these three types of disturbances, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, and Arjuna. Whatever you've understood as samsara, just to hold, just to remember, because if the context is lost later on, then it may be difficult to connect to. This will be helpful for you at some point, whenever you want to fall back on it. And the reasoning that he came up with. See, I learned to identify the justifications. जब हमारी इच्छा है, हमारी इच्छा, जब हमारी इच्छा हम उसके हिसाब से कुछ करना चाहते हैं, तो हमारी बुद्धि रीजंस जस्टिफिकेशन के जैसे देती है, just to fulfill our इच्छा. So the discernment has to be proper. That is what is the first chapter. We will try and do the summary tomorrow to get an overview. How many of us would need a summary? Oh, okay.
Paul.
Okay. So we'll do a summary, and that's a good idea also. We'll just, so that you have a whole chapter in front of you, and there's not much philosophy in this. There's entire psychology in this. There's entire realm of emotions and how we operate on them and how to be watchful. Not all emotions need to be watched, but when they are important decisions in life, they cannot be based on just mere superficial layer of thinking. Ji.
Deepti ji,
Ji.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Please. Yeah.
See, when you say that our ichhas give us justifications when we want our ichhas fulfilled.
Ji.
Sorry.
Sorry, excuse me.
No problem. When we want our ichhas fulfilled, the mind gives us justifications.
Ji.
So when the ichha is like right, then the mind does not give us justifications, then the mind gives us proper justifications. I mean, I don't know if you can able to understand my question, because there are some things which are right?
Yeah, right.
So at that time, then we should not call that justification, right? That is right what we are thinking.
Yes. Why? Because there will be no conflict.
Okay.
There's
then
nothing to oppose it.
Right, then you're clear in the mind.
Absolutely.
So justifications are the mind is fooling you.
Yes, that's right way of putting it. The mind is fooling you. Absolutely correct.
Okay.
And
Thank you so much.
capacity to identify it.
Right. We have to build that. We have to build that identification.
That's right.
Okay.
Correct. Good. Akanksha wanted to ask a question.
Nitiji, I was saying that like how in Tattva Bodha you would give us a set of questions after you completed major portions. If you could, I don't know if it would
Do
be
you
feasible
want,
here.
if anyone's comfortable with that kind of a format? A lot of people dropped out of classes because of that. So I don't want anybody, I hardly have anyone attending class. If people drop off from there also, then it will be difficult. So I, how many of you would prefer that kind of really helps? I can't see anybody else's. Okay,
I
one,
also
two.
want Nidhi. Me
Yeah.
too.
Who's that? Me too?
I
Divya.
don't know about that.
Okay, Divya. Yeah, okay. Nehal also?
Yeah, but what was that? I don't know. I was not part of that.
Okay. So, we used to give those assignments, no, in Tattva. So, Akanksha is asking if we can do the same for Bhagavad Gita also. I was thinking not to because then it kind of brings too many things together. But what we will do is, I'll give you the assignments. I think I'll give you the assignments. It's up to you to do or not to do.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to force yourself, please. Nobody has to pressurize themselves. You don't have to give up attending the class for the sake of assignments. Don't do that. So it's okay not to do the assignments because this learning is such a liberal learning that there are many ways in which you can learn. Some of us are very comfortable with assignments because they establish the thought in our mind.
Right.
They make us go back, they make us, look at it again. And it's a great way of reflection. But it's not necessary that it should be everybody's way. So I will give you the assignment at the end of the chapter throughout, and who wants to attempt can attempt. And if you don't want to attempt, please feel free. Nobody should feel bound to it. Okay?
Ma'am, I just need to ask something.
G,
So for tomorrow, it will be same time, 5:30?
G, 5:30.
And link, you will send the link or how do we
Same link.
work? Okay, and the questions will be sent to us by email?
Yeah, I'll send by email. That's right.
Great,
Email,
thank you.
you'll get a Google form, and
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Uh, have you done the whole chapter? None.
Nandishi, no, because today is the first day I've joined.
So, okay, but you would like the questions also? I'll send it to
Yeah,
everybody.
yes.
Okay, sure, great, right? So then we are ending. Yes, summary I will be doing also. So tomorrow we'll catch up with the summary. And if any questions are there are some very general questions more. Maybe we'll pick that up. If you have any questions, send me a mail. We'll cover up tomorrow. And we'll wrap up chapter 1 entirely. And I am presuming once you do the questions also, you will have that much confirmed. We're wrapping it up, means it is something that is going to be your knowledge that you can hold on to and delve into it as much as you want. So any question, anything can please be sent as email. And after I do that, then all those who've been regular on Facebook or on Facebook mostly, it's time for one class exclusive for you people, not other than Saturday, Sunday. I'll send you people a separate link. If anybody has any clarifications to take, we'll have a class like this on another day, not Saturday, Sunday. Saturday, Sunday will be this only. Am I clear to everyone? Yeah. So we'll just end the class. Anyone wants to
Ma'am,
chant?
ma'am, is it possible for me to get the previous class chapter?
They're all on YouTube.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
have the link?
Yes, please.
I'll send you the mail of the link.
Okay, great.
All the chapters are there so far. Yeah, there may be, if not enough, then we may change. But at this point, I think chapter 2 also I'll continue in the same way if it's helping people revise and everything. But at some point, maybe we'll have to consider a change. So does anyone want to do the Shanti Patha? Ending?
I'll do it.
G, please.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Very good. So thank you everyone.
Thank you, Deepti ji.
Thank you. No questions? No?
Deepti ji, Neetu ji asked this question of Ichha, right Ichha. So in case of Arjuna, though it was the right Ichha initially, but still he had this conflict. Whereas in case of Duryodhana, it was not a right Ichha, but he had no conflict. So if conflict is the only way we can figure it out, then Duryodhana should have figured it out. Like, so where is so conflict? How do we see that conflict is the way, like we can figure it out, we are in the right path or not?
Conflict will always come, like we said, when there will be something that you ought to be doing and something that you want to do. Duryodhana's Ichha was, yes, not right, but he didn't have a conflict of what he ought to do and what he wanted to do. To him, what he wanted to do is what he ought to do. उसको वही pursue करना चाहिए. If he wants an ice cream, I ought to get an ice cream. If I want kingdom, I ought to get a kingdom. I fight for it. I do whatever. So there's no conflict because there is alignment of his desire, his motivation, his intention, his ichha, and so his action can be planned. But conflict comes to those where there are different sets of desires, a desire to follow what is right, and a desire to follow what I feel is right. I respect that also, that what is right to be followed, and I also feel I have to follow something. That's the time when there'll be a conflict. Now, even if his ichha is good, what shows that his ichha is good, Arjuna's ichha is good, is the reasons that he comes up with in a state of conflict. If you examine the reasons itself, nowhere is it actually me and mine happiness in the question. It is all to do with what is beneficial as Shreyas. So that kind of a conflict, it's like saying, if I have to watch a movie or I have to go for a, I have to go shopping. Are these conflicts? They seem conflicting, no? At the same time, I can go, what are the two things I said? Shopping and the other thing?
Movie.
Coffee with a friend. Movie, okay, movie. Sorry. Okay. You know, and I can choose anyone, the value is the same. But if I have to go shopping and I also have, say, satsang or I have a class at that same time. Now, the nature of conflict changes.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
what is going to take my precedence? This is easy. It's just for argument's sake. Sometimes going shopping is also needed. That's besides the point. But what happens when it starts dharma being the question, मेरा धर्म क्या बनता है? A lot of times, traditionally, women face this when it was children on one side and husband on the other side. धर्म क्या बनता है? Should I protect the child or follow the duties as a mother towards the child, or should I be, following my husband, or serving my husband, etc. Now these are two supposedly duties. One born from greater affection, it could be either way, for children or for a partner. But the nature of conflict, the justification that comes from it, will express, are you gravitating towards fulfillment of desire, or are you objective to fulfill your duty? Is that making sense? Yeah.
In fact, Deepti, this is all the more intensified in today's world when women are faced the choice between the household and work.
And
Where they want to work, but the household also has to be looked at. And
absolutely. Absolutely. This is an eternal problem. This is not going to be the expressions will keep changing. But the conflict that it brings to human beings, situations, that will not change.
But Deepti,
So,
according to your question, what is the dharma then?
which question?
One gravitate towards the husband or the kid?
Husband or the...
Should one, like, what is the dharma in that question? Where
You
should
won't like the answer.
say it? One
No,
should
you won't like it. That itself is the answer. You guess what would you not like to hear?
No, I think at that time the mother has to think that the child is the future. You have to give more
You have to give more importance to the children. Okay. And anybody else?
You will go shopping.
The question is between mother and husband, between children and husband, not between shopping and movie.
Children.
Sanjay?
Has to be children.
Has to be children.
They are your responsibility. They need to be protected.
Right. Right.
but if it's grown-up children, then children can take care of themselves, but husband may be, lonely, invalid, whatever, all that kahani.
It
So
is
obviously,
situational.
So first thing is, there is no standard, this or that in dharma. Dharma is always situational. That is why it's important to understand knowledge correctly, because you are the one who has to decide which is of a greater value. It will depend upon your wisdom. So dharma will be situational, but eternally, actually from the traditional standpoint, for a woman, once the children are there and you have taken care of them, and once they have come to the stage of expressing their independence, your duty starts to withdraw. It will always be husband first at that stage.
and
But
the
it doesn't happen for most of us.
Duryodhana.
Why? Because affection for children is a lot more.
And the reason I asked this was Deepti ji, because Duryodhana is one example that no parent wants to follow. Give in to wrong, desires of the
Correct.
kid because
Correct.
he's the future and all of that. So that's why I asked.
Yes, absolutely. Correct. That's the reason why being aware of the factors that make the conflict. And then you will realize there'll come a point of permanence and impermanence to be brought into the equation. What is more permanent? So these two things will determine better your judgment of what is your dharma to do. What is permanent and what is impermanent.
What does that mean exactly, Deepti?
Say, whenever there's a conflict, if you're
Yeah.
aware of the factors that are creating the conflict, first priority is to see in that situation where is the dharma lying. Second is which of them is more permanent to follow. So supposing you have a class, you are a teacher, school teacher, you are a teacher, and you have students in your class, and your child wants you to take chutti that day. Just because your child wants you to take chutti, doesn't want to go to school. Now, what is to be followed?
To go and teach in the school
Huh. Why?
because it's my duty to do that. I owe it to the children I'm teaching.
Why? Why is your child not going to get angry at you or feel my mother doesn't think about me, my mother doesn't love me, my mother doesn't care about me, my mother doesn't understand me? Your child can feel all those feelings.
Well, but it's my responsibility towards people I've made a promise to or whatever it is. It
Correct?
is my responsibility to do that as
That's
opposed
true.
to being selfish and doing it for my son.
Correct?
And it also
Uh,
sets the right example for my child to see that the mother is not giving in to a. Obviously, it's more fun for the mother also to stay back with the child. But, when the child sees that no matter what, she's sticking to her duty, the child will also learn to do their duty in the long run.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
what
Unless if it's
is
the child is
permanent?
unwell. If the child is unwell,
Those
then
factors are then different.
yeah.
That again, it's changed. Then the priority will change. Now, what is this? Again, come back to them. What is more permanent? A lot of places, I mean, there may not be examples of cuff like that totally because this is so flexible. But a lot of places you will realize that uh, permanent and impermanent becomes another reason to choose what is my duty.
So everything boils down to a balance kind of thing in everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nan, I still didn't understand. Sorry, what is impermanence in this? I mean, in
Impermanent
the
means short, immediate gain.
right, quick fix kind of thing.
Quick fix kind of a thing.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Siddharth, you have a question? No. Okay.
Thank you, Diptiji. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so
Thank
much,
you,
everyone.
thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Deepti, namaskar and thank you.
Ji, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Titi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepti ji.
Thank you, Deepti ji.
Thank you.